Black Lagoon. You know it, you love it, and you probably cosplayed it. The hit 2000s manga turned anime was pretty much what many older fans talked about during the time when the War on Terror began, a financial time bomb was brewing in the stock exchange, and when social media was born in earnest. That last part kind of gets me thinking of like the scene here in Interstellar. Many lauded Black Lagoon for being a homage to the ultra-violent action of Western films. You know, the ones directed by John Woo, Robert Rodriguez, and Quentin Tarantino. Unapologetic in drafting up a rough and tough world filled with bounty hunters, killer maids, mafiosos, samurai, child vampires, and a poor schmuck trying to play Sephiroth from Final Fantasy.
And while I have no grudge against you...
The legacy of Black Lagoon is itself a capture of what many would find to be a barrier to cross in anime. A gateway to more heavy topics not touched upon by other animated properties, and would have been one of the very few to tackle mature subject matter in a medium regular people would look down upon. This was not your Looney Tunes with their slapstick antics or kitty mitts. This was the kind of bro show you would put on to your friend group as a way to regain some social dignity. Even though it was the 2000s, liking anime and trying to stay cool with your schoolmates was an exercise in futility. Soon enough, however, Black Lagoon's reign came to an end. The manga continued on, of course, but with the infrequency of its releases, it has become pretty seldom. The anime has been in hibernation for over a decade and a half, and even streaming has pulled it from their catalogs, which means the only way to watch the adventures of the Lagoon Company now is to literally and unironically, well, I can't say it out loud, but the show's characters can.
We're actually being targeted by pirates?
Hey, they said it, not me. So because everyone is talking about a series that's now as uncommon to folks as Rei Hiroi's previous work recreators, which I talked about years ago, plug, I think it's appropriate timing to touch upon what made Black Lagoon special, and why it somehow stands above other series when it comes to its presentation. Was it all had and no cattle? Or is it a show that's only subjective when you don't really think too thoroughly about it? And what does this guy have to do with it? To which I would say, it's a little column A and a little column B. Now, normally I would begin this video by going over what inspired it, what gave its author the idea, and why is it important to him. But in an effort to buck my tradition, let's start out with what it commonly slips into. Because Black Lagoon does fall in the spectrum of anime where it has a certain reputation. This being Grimdark.
This is a song I wrote for Wild Style. Darkness. It's about how I'm an orphan. No parents.
Now, of course, this term didn't originate in Japanese pop culture, but in the Warhammer 40k series, where it attempts to subvert the tropes that traditional stories go for. It's not as predictable and offers catharsis for a subset of readers who want to see the world be just as miserable and morally apathetic as the one they currently live in. Realism is the main trait authors love to use in their work, which you can find most commonly in fantasy writers who have certain feelings about stuff like Narnia or Lord of the Rings. Game of Thrones comes to mind as the biggest grimdark success story in mainstream pop culture, subverting fantasy tropes and exchanging the romantic parables for debauchery and nihilism. Frank Miller's Batman, Spawn, The Punisher are good examples of grimdark in comic books, whereas the Japanese equivalent would be stuff like Claymore, Hellsing, and the poster boy for violent angst, Berserk. Brooding, hollow, ultra masculine. If your grimdark story doesn't have these things in it, you definitely aren't following the manual. And yeah, it has become, to my personal opinion, overly passé.
Shut up!
Have you not heard what he said? He will have the final word.
I said shut your damn mouth!
Okay, I don't want to create this knock-on effect that grimdark is bad overall. Berserk remains one of my all-time favorite mangas after all. There are even stories out there where hints of grimdark can help elevate the stakes and the decisions that characters make more tantalizing. Yet if the world operates without some sense of optimism, and is just misery 24/7, it really makes the world feel dull and the story one note. You can only get away with this so much until your audience decides that maybe, yeah, that character should just pet a bunny once in a while. Now, when it comes to anime, shit is just Edge City for most of them. The camps of Goblin Slayer or redo of Healer are prime examples that come to mind where little to no hope is placed on the characters to do the right thing, but instead operate on their own impulses. Or whatever shit the writer has been going through, some of which involves exploitative culture. Yeah, my feelings on Goblin Slayer have definitely changed overall, and let's just leave redo of Healer in the bag. Which is why I've mostly cleared away from shows of that nature. And if I did, it was when I was much younger. With that being said, there are other shows of its kind to which it can make it part of the fun. Hellsing, or in this case Hellsing Ultimate, is a show I look to for being a prime example of a style over substance anime. It is over-the-top gory with a bonkers plot about Nazi vampires doing a World War III in London, and with a badass Dracula wielding dualies. Overall, entertaining, but nothing to really gain from it. I guess it tries to have a point in the madness, but it's not the main course that got people into it.
Was that really all you had? As a vampire, you were just a pathetic piece of Now you're nothing but dog.
Which is where we come to Black Lagoon. Does it fall into this trap of going too far down the rabbit hole? To which I think is where the character of Rock really helps Black Lagoon escape it. Yet before that, the series revels in this baroque aptitude for gunplay, explosions, and situations that highlights how dark the world can be. Roanapur, a crime city based in the South China Seas, is littered with criminals of all walks of life. You got your gangs fighting for control, pleasure districts looking to swindle your wallet, con men on every street corner, and cleanup crews available for one-day delivery service. This is an incredibly hostile environment, and one that many would just cast aside of other depressing locales found in other anime to take this route. Even so, Black Lagoon's biggest positive does come to how it more or less takes place in a fictional world that runs on the logic of those 90s action films. If you're looking for realism, no, this series is not.
Hey!
Hey, is Revy all right?
Her injuries are minor, but she does have a concussion.
Terminator maids with the strength of a crane, paternal twins who act like something out of an Italian horror movie. No, this series is not going for a realistic approach to its major selling feature. It just looks to evoke similar feels to something like Face Off with Nicolas Cage.
Your little Peach, is she right?
So okay, maybe it's just Hellsing, but with less of the Bram Stoker. But that would also be wrong, as it tends to touch on a lot of issues that center around war, poverty, exploitation, trauma, and the struggles of doing the right thing. If it wants to be full-on nihilistic like any other Grimdark material, then Rock would have just been killed during the conversation at the bar. But he didn't, because that is not what Black Lagoon wants to be. It wants to have something to say. It wants to make you question and be something more grounded. That's the secret strength of Black Lagoon as opposed to its contemporaries. It has leaks of optimism in its narrative. Alright, who is this Rock guy I'm constantly talking about? Well, for starters, he is the reason Black Lagoon can be hailed as a classic. Dumped by his company near Thailand, Japanese businessman is taken hostage by a company called Lagoon. You got its leader, Dutch, tech wizard Benny, and the muscle of the group, Revy, taking their prisoner back to Roanapur as collateral. Yet through a series of unfortunate events, Rock comes to find solace with the team, and begins life as a pirate. And not like an old 18th century pirate, or a certain pirate anime where people get rubber powers from a pint of gum gum. No, it's more like threatening transport ships with torpedoes and running errands for establishments that hide their black market trades in Catholic attire. Like I said, this show plays by its own rules.
Don't you know what Jesus said in Luke 11? Don't trouble me. The door is locked. Got that?
The series goes into episodic 2 to 3 episode arcs that range from a delivery gone wrong to expeditions that land them in hot water with whatever enemy force is opposing them. Sometimes local pirates looking to make a good score, or a far-right, ultra-nationalist union of American skinheads trying to retrieve a painting supposedly done by the guy with the infamous toothpick stash.
That kind of machismo doesn't agree with me. Besides, don't forget I'm Jewish. The Nazis is a family creed.
Actually, that arc in particular reveals a little bit about the working dynamics of the two biggest characters in Black Lagoon, but let's save ourselves that for later. The rest of the cast aren't all just ruffians looking to put the Lagoon Company on an obituary. You also got folks like Balalaika, who leads a Russian mafia known as Hotel Moscow, who is in good graces with Dutch and just yearns for war.
Listen carefully, you piece of horse. We didn't come here so you could tell us a story. Trey, that's about the only thing you can still do while you're alive.
There is also the people at the Ripoff Church, especially the undercover CIA agent Ida, and the proprietor of a bar the gang goes to that usually gets blown up every couple of episodes. Yeah, that guy does not catch a break, and I feel so sorry for him. Then you have plenty of popular characters like Roberta, a deadly South American warmonger who plays the role of a maid and is very protective of her young master. She would get so much acclaim, in fact, that an entire OVA got released all about her, which only adds to the sheer insanity that she unleashes.
But before we start, your shoelace is untied.
Sure, you can!
Then again, not every side character is as beloved as her. I mean, the episodes involving the character Jane are probably the weakest if I'm being fair, as a character I can't exactly stand the majority of the time. Although it has its moments.
You're a rocket man, baby!
Series creator Ray Hiro came up with the world of Black Lagoon as a response to incidents happening around the South China Seas during the 90s, and initially had the story be a lot more morally black with its characters. Yet according to this interview with Otaku USA in 2011, at the beginning of the project, we had only bad men. We found we needed someone who shares the same point of view as our audience or readers, so we added a businessman to the story. After we added him to the story, he came to life and started to build his own interesting character. That's where Rock comes in, as the audience's point of view character. To get a sense of what this guy really is, the first opportunity he gets to escape, he immediately gets hit in the face.
You lipstick son of a bitch! You're running away!
Stop it! Why do I have to suffer like this? I can't take it anymore!
He doesn't like confrontation and is wet behind the ears to the goings-on of what Roanapur culture is like. Hell, he doesn't even check to see if someone rips him off with bad produce.
What the hell is this? Tastes like it came out of your ass. Whatever you paid for those, you got ripped off.
All things considered, he sticks out too much, and even dresses in the same way he would at an office job. Even during ride or die scenarios, he would still get up every day with that same necktie and shirt, despite the constant reprimands from his loud-mouthed coworker. Although, call him out for being lightweight and he will throw away that old-fashioned for straight rum just to prove himself.
As a rule, I hate chugging drinks like some teenager, but I'll make an exception.
And that's the appeal of Rock. He is an ordinary person, but turns into an extraordinary one under the right conditions. He might not be a fighter, but he is a great negotiator and careful planner, tending to resolve issues without reciprocal invitations fired back.
Ladies, haven't you had enough of this fighting? Sit down and talk things through. I'm sure you have more in common than you thought.
Get out of this!
Or I could do that.
Dutch and Benny both react positively to Rock's actions despite some hiccups early on, and even during high-risk gambles. Benny would even be considered a kindred spirit to Rock, as they both resolve themselves to sit back and let the ugliness of Lagoon's operations be done by Revy and Dutch. Yet, unlike Benny, Rock is conflicted by that logic, and has difficulty in allowing harshness to befall figures who didn't really deserve it. Yet someone like Dutch would say that's kinda costly with this analogy.
You got to realize something about Rock, Benny. The fact that he hasn't had to hold a gun is a blessing. Because if he shoots the way he talks, his bullets will ricochet back at us. It'd be too damn dangerous.
Not to say Rock doesn't showcase some extremely sinister motivations. Again, this is Black Lagoon. Everyone is their own brand of crazy. But even so, his brazenness in making the right choice overall culminates in arcs such as in Japan, where he tries to stop a high schooler from entering a life of organized crime. However, this might be him guilt-tripping to find a way back to normalcy if things go south, keeping himself from falling into that darkness that someone like Dutch, Balalaika, and especially Revy are drawn to. He is in a constant struggle to keep on to his ideals, and has to be challenged throughout. At the time, he had a talk with a terrorist about following beliefs struck a chord with him, in that giving up means all your efforts were for naught.
How should I put it? Running away like this always seems to make things worse, you know? Truth is, when I look back at my life, it feels like I've been running away from things since I was in kindergarten.
Rock, regardless of implied goodness, has the problem of being a white knight, especially during the second Roberta arc, where he straddles the line between hero and anti-hero in order for the best scenario to play out. Just the same when he concocted in the first arc a suicidal ploy of launching a torpedo boat into a helicopter with a beach boat as a ramp. Without conviction or sanity, Rock can very well be the most dangerous resident living there. Yet, admirably, he fights against it, which is equal parts humorous, but also very fascinating. While initially planned as just an audience avatar, the character has grown a life of their own, and contrasts their personality wickedly with another more true-to-form character that feels more at home in this grimdark tale. Daisy Duke's wearing, ponytail-equipped, trigger-on-the-spinner gunslinger Revy. In her case, is all kinds of Ray Hero certainly has an interest in turning the ladies of his works into the most dominating presence in the narrative. Although it's not always cut to perfection, some of the female characters in Black Lagoon have been seen as the most dynamic and thrilling action characters in anime. While Revy was partly inspired by George Clooney's character in the movie From Dusk Till Dawn, the woman who goes by Two Hands has a much more rowdy attitude in contrast. She is woefully aggressive and flies off the rails on more than one occasion. Bottom line is, she is due for an anger management seminar.
What the f*** were you thinking? Guess what? That's the last favor you're gonna get from me, you pea-brain.
Now, being that she is, well, American, she tends to have a pretty foul mouth, blurting out derogatory slurs and denigrates any action she deems uncalled for.
Why won't you die? Die already, Four Eyes! My partner has the documents. Do you follow? Understand you? Yes? Shut the Can you see I wasn't even listening? I mean, were you trying to sell me the damn gun or what?
It really doesn't take much to set her off.
Hey, that's You won't get away with this, you
Get out of my face, you arrogant Yankee!
What was that? Maybe I should use real bullets instead.
That's why so many who take a passing glance at her sees that she is beyond redemption. And that's not before getting to know what her day-to-day job is. In the episode where she goes around the boat killing neo-Nazis, she stumbles across a group of non-combatant sailors and proceeds to nearly kill one of them in cold blood. Dutch quickly stops her and reprimands her murderous intent.
A gunman is a professional. A shooter's someone who kills because they got issues. I do not remember hiring Charles Whitman.
Above all things, Revy views power as her obsession, all perhaps because of her upbringing in an abusive household and the corruption of the city police who did untold things to her innocence. That brings us to the time in the submarine, widely considered by fans to be the most significant lens into her psychology. Holding up a skull and a medal, she lets Rock in on which one the world sees as valuable.
Both of these are just things. Their value will be determined by the one thing everybody agrees on. And that's money.
Now, no surprise, Grimdark stories always put aside the morality and safety of good to the wayside. So Revy essentially represents the full-on nature of Black Lagoon's reason for survival. The world's too far gone, don't try to fix it, just run with the punches.
I'll say this once. The next time you decide you're gonna tell me what's proper, you'll no longer be one of us.
Now, of course, I also want to add that the series is well known for its English dub, and the dialogue is pretty flowery with its liberties. Even if some things haven't aged well like others, good example being Shenhua.
We not need extra jab from you, stupid cowboy man. If I not have free time, I don't accept cheap job like this. Oh, you like for me to split your ass in four? It is not nice to make fun.
I'd be happy to skin you for free, slut.
What in hell? Then why you take us on long ride to save dumbass?
Yeah, As for Revy's dub, she has the most to say, as the stuff coming out of her mouth is both inflammatory, but also layered in references to Americana like Westerns or the Alamo.
Jack McCall, I'm here to avenge Wild Bill. Can you outdraw Calamity Jane? Go on, take your best shot.
Considering the USA's controversial history of sponsoring violent assassinations and coups in the name of global security, Revy sees that as something to latch onto, and will be just as happy to slam red, white, and blue on the table as a flex. Yet, it also makes for a noticeable chunk in her armor, in that she can't relate to anyone. The Roanapur bosses are just as disturbing as her, but they know how to keep their cool, and command authority without needing to fire a bullet. Then there's Revy, who can only shoot first and ask questions never, meaning that Dutch was the only one daring enough to chill her temper. Well, that is until a Japanese salaryman came to the mix, and that is where things really get at the most fascinating.
He's nothing like the people on our side. It's not that I don't like him. But Dutch, it's not possible.
The 7th episode of Black Lagoon is widely considered one of the best in the original run, whereas other ones have the Killer May going around blasting South American cartel people, or the kids out of a Grimdark fairy tale running around the city are also fondly remembered, except for, certain scenes.
This is the first time anyone's ever been this nice to me, so... Here, a gift for you.
This episode is what most fans find to be the best. It is just an episode of Rock and Revy doing errands, going around the city, bartering.
What a pain in the balls.
Hold on a sec. Is she taking it up the ass?
Sure is.
Having a conversation about morality and purpose, and then ending with a cigarette kiss in the back of a cop car. Only one bullet is fired in the episode, and it doesn't lead to any kind of body hitting the ground. It's merely used as a thought-terminating cliche, an excuse by Revy to step away from talking things out. Rock has been constantly getting under her skin throughout the early adventures, mainly the events of the sunken submarine. Even at the first hint of her past during the chapter when they were being chased by rival pirates, she gives Rock a fair glimpse to what she went through in her childhood.
That's the truth. I stole. I killed. I did everything. It ain't no sick joke.
It is only exasperated further whenever she lets go of the formalities and lays it all out. She is not looking for pity from those with egos of privilege, as she believes them to be deceitful, which if you're a much younger viewer, you would get behind to a certain extent. At least when I initially watched the show. But then you have Rock at an outdoor public square firmly shouting that what happened at the ripoff church was not his fault. He disarmed the situation, got the ship in place, and secured good favors with the head nun for their company. After years of being kicked around, looked down upon, and given a place in the crew, Rock is showing that he won't take harassment laying down. He will fight for his rights, even if Revy doesn't want him to.
You have no intention of understanding that. Instead of owning up to things, you'd rather play the part of the tragic heroine. That's the most cowardly thing about you, Revy.
I think of this scene as being the reason that sold me to how Black Lagoon isn't just another mindless or senseless cartoon about how violence is the answer, or that optimism is for punks. A pushover like Rock might not show it through force, but with charisma and intellect. He is in depth with finding alternatives to outcomes that can present better results. Yet aside from that, it is Rock's principles and lack of hesitancy that wins him edges in confrontations. Not just in this scene, but also in a scene similar with Balalaika in Japan.
Yeah, that's right. Some people like to die in the gutters, others like to go to war. Then there's me. When it comes down to it, I'm really no different from you.
Despite conversations with hardened veterans and how pointless it is to share empathy to folks that were wronged, he understands their humanity and the tragedy behind them.
No, you're wrong. That's not why you're here. The world is a place for you to find happiness. Listen, blood and darkness are just a small part of it. That's not all the world has to offer.
Now, this doesn't mean he can't be wrong in certain assessments. As stated, it could very well just be him overcompensating virtues as a means to keep himself connected to his former life. But when it came to what was shown on screen, he is brave enough to stand by them. Revy, unfortunately, tends to shrink at the sign of opening up. She will usually lash out in anger, flip the bird, and shout, "Fuck you, I know better than you," because that's all she sees as effective. She sees nothing good will ever come of things.
It's convenient! convenient for you to see it like that! God damn it! This isn't one of those cheap, picaresque Hollywood films you love to talk about! There are no heroes in this life!
And maybe that's because she didn't have a reason to, until now. The scene doesn't confirm it outright, but considering how she has unorthodox interactions, letting one another sickies is much less triggering than a kiss on the lips. At that point, Revy does whatever she can to keep Rock resilient to the harsh Roanapur environment as possible. Or when Rock failed to save a Yakuza girl from going down this dark road, even trying to shield him from when this person ended her life.
We're different, but you think we come from the exact same place. And it's obvious that you try to see him as the opposite of who you are. That's because you want to be saved by some hero.
The two of them complement each other extremely well, making for a weird situationship that makes the more grimdark elements of the series more palatable and not as exploitative. Now with that in mind, it can't escape the confines of its genre. After all, it's not a Cowboy Bebop, where its episodes can explore some of these themes and metaphors more effectively in a semi-realistic space adventure. On the other hand, it also doesn't become a full-on, pedal-to-the-metal thrill ride that doesn't take time to breathe. It is a lot more interested in dissuading the darker pits of its plot lines, and instead tries to remedy that with glimpses of happiness against the cruelty. And Rock, along with Revy, make Black Lagoon stand the test of time against its more bleaker brothers and sisters. I can't deny that I've done a lot of growing up, especially concerning the media I've overviewed or wrote videos around, a part of how we become reflective about moments in life that deserve a second glance. Ever since hearing that Black Lagoon had been left out adrift in the sea that is streaming insolvency, it would appear many are taking the time to see whether it can be remembered for more than just its violent excess. And yeah, I think it does, to a certain extent. It still has moments of being cruel and cynical. It has scenes that are products of its time, and it still has grimdark sprinkled throughout. Yet it also knows when to be fun, makes efforts to be subtle, and is curious in exploring themes most series will flip up on if given the chance. Something I'm sure the creator needed from time to time. I'm sure many are glad he went back to his flagship series, and while I can't say much about the current quality of Black Lagoon on the comics pages, I will commend this title for being more than another drop in the bucket of edgy animated affairs. I mean, I like you Hellsing Ultimate, but you ain't shit compared to this 2000s hardened gem. All thanks to a Rock, a Revy, and a city at the edge of the world. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know what you think of Black Lagoon in the comment section below. If you'd like to see the uncut version of the video you're watching on YouTube, sign up on Patreon and get videos a day or two earlier. It's your bra man, going out for a smoke.